So this evening's teaching will be to explain differences between practicing the Buddha Dharma and practicing other religions, because there are fundamental differences. And while on the one hand it seems like the right thing to do would be to say, at the bottom of every faith there is the same truth, and so we all share that. Buddhists don't quite put it that way. The way we say it is that no matter what faith one is, within each of us is the seed of enlightenment, is the Buddha seed. So in that way, we are completely, absolutely equal in every measurement, looking at that particular idea or that concept. Means that each one of us has the potential for Buddhahood. Every sentient being, not only humans, but animals, unseen beings that we cannot see with our physical eyes because they are other dimensional. Sometimes people do have visions and they can see different things, but for the most part, other dimensions are not visible to us. But whatever kind of sentient being, and that is a being with senses, a being that feels and has consciousness, whatever sort of sentient being, each sentient being in their capacity to reach Buddhahood are exactly the same. So that means that each and every practicing Buddhist should hold in high regard every life form. Our habitual tendency is to respect people whom we are taught to respect. And we respect our teachers and our parents and our family, and we love the people, that we are connected with and so forth. But for the most part, we feel somewhat alienated from the rest of the world. And certainly in America, our culture is such that we feel alienated from other cultures. And so in the Buddha Dharma, we begin to break down that kind of divisive separation idea. We begin to understand that no matter what each person appears like, they have exactly the same capacity for realization, for Buddhahood. And so, what is the meaning, you ask? Why would this teacher then be sitting on a throne and I'm sitting way down there if we're equal? Why is that so? It has to do with the degree of awakening and the capacity for bodhicitta, or the great compassion, having studied it and given rise to it. And it has to do with one's past karmic potential and how that is ripened. When I, for instance, first met my guru, he told me, "Oh, you have been reborn as a bodhisattva many, many uncountable times. And so the reason why you know the Dharma without being taught is you have that habit in your mind. And so now we'll teach you more and you'll know more." So that was his way of explaining how it is that I am in this position and somebody else might not be. But the truth of the matter is, even though I appear to be sitting on the throne and maybe someone else is on death row in a jailhouse, our capacity is exactly equal. Our level of awakening is not equal. Because a person who is awakening and who is giving rise to the great compassion, which is called the Bodhichitta, that person would not be capable of killing. Just would not have the habit, would not conceive of it in their mind. Mind just doesn't go there. It's not to say that that very same person would say, "I could just kill my kid, today. She's driving me nuts," or something like that. It's not to say that that wouldn't happen, but that statement is so thin. It's utterly meaningless when you realize that there is no habit or propensity for doing harm. So when we study that, the first thing we come to understand is the equality of all that lives. And this is a direct teaching from none other than Shakyamuni Buddha himself. He taught that all beings are essentially equal in their nature and that they all have the same desires, the same exact desire that we have. We want to be happy. We strive for happiness in our own way every day. We go here and go there to be happy. We rest to be happy. We wake up to be happy. We have our weekends to be happy. We hope the weekdays will be happy. It's something that's a theme in us, and whether we really consciously realize that we are striving for happiness, whether or not we realize that consciously, it is an underlying sort of the fuel that runs the machine. And of course, when we are not happy, we are filled, and even that desire for happiness is desire. And when we are not happy, we are suffering. And so the Buddha taught us that each and every sentient being, not just humans, but animals as well, and even non-physical beings, mainly wish to be happy in the simple way that we do. I watch NBC News sometimes, and MSNBC News, and I watch Chris Matthews and Keith Olbermann. And Chris Matthews always says in one of his commercials, he says, "This is something uniquely American. This is something that really shows us who we are. We are Americans. Because in America, there's the hope that this day is going to be the best day. And that this is going to be our favorite day, and that we're going to be really happy today. And so we wake up in America with that hope because we have the freedom to gain that happiness. We're not, say, oppressed or in a situation where one is starving or homeless or something like that, where there is no real potential for true happiness or comfort or ease." Well, I disagree with Chris Matthews, even though I'm a fan. I don't think that only in America do we wake up with that thought. Maybe in America it seems more attainable. But the truth of the matter is, no matter where we are, no matter what diseases we suffer from, or what poverty we endure, or what hunger, or what disability, or what oppression, or warlike conditions, every single person has the wish for the freedom to be happy and wishes for happiness. When we come to realize that all sentient beings are exactly the same in that way, an understanding comes up in our minds, a sense of the equality of all that lives, perhaps a sense of budding compassion or understanding, hopefully. That's the goal anyway. So how does that work? Sometimes we hear about really terrible situations and really terrible people. How is it that, let's say, a serial killer who has murdered, and like Jeffrey Dahmer, somebody really like that, really strange, if you ever heard about him, serial killer that used to cannibalize his people and live with their dead bodies and stuff like that. Now, of course, our understanding of that is that the man is was extremely sick. I don't know if he's still alive anymore. No? But extremely sick. I mean, we can understand that. But do we understand that as strange and abhorrent and bizarre and as ghastly his behavior was, he was striving to be happy? But the confusion in his mind, the delusion in his mind was so thick that in order to be happy, he had to completely dominate another life form. But underlying that, even while killing and maiming and torturing people, he was striving to be happy. That's a bizarre thought. But it helps us to understand a little bit the nature of suffering sentient beings. And then we think about animals. I'm a real animal lover. For those of you that don't know, I just adore animals. And I feel very close to them. And I have a bunch. So they're my family. Animals suffer too. And I have come to understand through my own experience, and not just from the teachings, that animals also every day strive to be happy. Like I see my dogs move from a hot place to a cool place, from a cool place to a warm place, and it's wanting that to feel comfortable, to feel good. And whenever you buy them a new toy or a new treat or something like that, they're gung-ho on it because they want to be happy. And so I've seen that for myself in humans, and I've seen it for myself in animals. And so I absolutely, completely and totally understand that what the Buddha has said is true. And that while we are striving to be happy, we have absolutely no understanding as to how to go about it. And therein lies the rub, as they say. Therein lies the problem. We tend to do things that give us a rush, but it doesn't make us happy. Like, for instance, let's say if we decide to drink some alcohol, and we decide to do it a lot, and we decide to get loaded every weekend. And we think, boy, that gives me something to look forward to, because all week long I can be a good person, and then on the weekend I can get loaded. And then I'll be happy. Of course, it doesn't happen. Generally what happens is your body gets sicker. You get dependent on alcohol in order to feel anything. And, eventually the mind just churns in samsara, and no new habits or no new understandings or nothing that will actually make you happy occurs. We just get drunk. And then we sober up on Monday. And that's it. That's all that happens. But we keep along thinking that if we do it every weekend, and if we do it better every weekend, then eventually, one weekend, it's really going to make us happy. And it's going to last. And of course that's foolish, because it never works. But there's something about human consciousness that makes it difficult for us to learn from experience. It's like this, banging into the wall constantly. And we go on with behavior that actually makes our situation worse rather than easing it or making us happy or making it better in any way. Like, for instance, let's say you really feel that you would be happy if you had more money. I can't say that I haven't thought that. And I'm sure if I've thought it, pretty much everybody's thought it, at least once. And so we think, wow, if I had some money, boy, I could do some things and I would be happier. Like, I'd really like to go on vacation this summer, and I don't, there's no money to do it with, so wouldn't I be happy if I could go on vacation? It's that kind of thinking. And so let's say that you put a lot of energy into getting this money. Let's say, in fact, you put so much energy into it that you're not quite kosher about it. You're not quite above board. Let's say you lie a little. Somehow that brings you a little money. Let's say you cheat a little. Somehow that brings you a little money. Let's say you steal a little bit. Somehow that brings you a little bit money. And you may get the money. You may go to jail too. Never know. But you may get the money and you may go on vacation. But guess what? You have set yourself up for more suffering than you could possibly imagine. Because even if the vacation goes well, the moment that you took from others and were dishonest and acted selfishly, at that very instant, when you gave rise to a negative cause, the result was also born. Did you know that? See, we think we get away with it until we get caught. And it's not true. The moment we create a non-virtuous cause, the result is born. At the same moment. Now, in our lives, it seems different because it seems like time is linear. And it seems like, well, I was really non-virtuous on Thursday, and by Saturday, it's still looking good. So you think, I got away with it. No, it doesn't work that way. Because the cause was given rise to, the result is already there. And because it didn't happen on Saturday means nothing. It will happen. You will have karma with the person that you were dishonest with, let's say, or that you stole from, or that you harmed in some way. And that person will harm you in the future. Whether they want to or not, it will happen because karma is exacting. It's cause and effect. If you can understand how a seesaw works, you can understand how karma works. If you can understand how you could drop a rock on one side of the pond and feel the vibration on another side of the pond, then you understand how karma works. Though we can't see it exactly, manifesting in front of our eyes, well, that's our great loss because we still think we get away with it. And it's simply not true. So, let's say we go ahead and steal, and we go on vacation, and we think it all works out, and then 6 months later, something dastardly happens to us. And maybe it reminds you a little bit of the situation in which you were not nice to somebody, and maybe it doesn't. If you do catch the connection, bully for you. You've learned something, and that's excellent. But if you don't catch the connection, and most of us don't, then it's unfortunate. So what does make happiness? I mean, if all we want is happiness, how do we do it? It's a little counterintuitive, to tell you the truth, but there's a real trick to it, and it can be done. You can create happiness. Here's how it's done. First of all sentient beings are equal. And in our nature, we are not only the same, we are one. From the point of view of Buddhahood, if the Buddha were to look out at everyone and look from the mind of awakening in the state of enlightenment, it would not be possible to see where one of us ends and the other begins. Because our nature, our true nature, is pure, pristine, primordial light. Now, it's not visible light in the way that we understand light, because when you can see light, then you're standing away from it. You would call it undifferentiated, non-conceptual illumination, radiance. That is our nature. So when we defile that nature in our relationships with others and cause harm to others, we suffer. Now if we could do the opposite and try to benefit others, we create happiness. And it doesn't seem to be the truth because we think, gimme, gimme, gimme. This is what America has taught us. This is what our culture says to us. Give me a car, I'll be happy. Give me a boyfriend, I'll be happy. Give me another boyfriend, I'll be twice as happy. And so that's what we're taught. We're taught that gimme, gimme, gimme is the way to happiness. It's kind of the, it's the modern mantra, isn't it? Gimme, 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 hung. So, we try very hard, and it doesn't work that way. What we find out is that in our oneness, we must uphold one another. We must not only practice kindness towards one another, but practice recognition. So let's say in my desire to be happiness, I decide the only thing that's going to work for me is a new car. Let's say in my materialistic American psyche, that's what I've decided. I've just got to have this new car. I saw it on TV, and I've got to have it. So whatever I do to get money for that car, even if it's honest, even if I go to my credit union and I, borrow and I do everything right, I make the payments and it's all legal and everything, you must understand it's ordinary. It's just regular. It's the stuff that you move around when you move an apple from here to here. It's nothing. It's ordinary, worldly gobbledygook. So, okay, you go to your credit union, and you get the dollars, and you get the car, and then what happens? You're happy for a little while, and then the car gets old. Baby throws up in it. Dog shits in it. Oh, excuse me. You spill milk in it. Or it just gets old. They get old. You drive it, and it gets old. Or you smash it up. Even better. Or now that you've bought it and gone to the credit union and cleaned everything out, you don't have money for gas. So this is not the way to create happiness. Even though the car might cheer you up for a little while, it is not going to change your life. It is not going to do what you hope it's going to do. And it's the same thing with the big ticket items, the house, and the non-buyable items like relationships and marriages and boyfriends and girlfriends and all that stuff. All of it are like Band-Aids in samsara. Quick fixes. When you're unhappy and you grab for something like that, your intuition tells you you're going to feel better. But the real solution is counterintuitive. And here it goes. If you are chronically poor, first of all, the Buddha has said, many people have gone to teachers and said, what was I in my past life? Or, what kind of being am I? Thinking that they're different somehow and that this is important. It's really not the case. We're exactly all the same. But a lot of times people will go to the teacher and ask questions like that. Well, the Buddha's answer was, if you want to know who you were in your past life, look in the mirror. Not necessarily at your physical appearance and how your mascara's on and that sort of thing, but more like, look at who you are, look at your life. Look at what you've accomplished. Not what you're spinning in your head that you're going to accomplish, but what you have accomplished. Then you can begin a certain analysis. Let's say, excuse me, that you have a chronic poverty situation. You're chronically poor. You tend to work low-wage jobs and can't get the big jobs and just can't make the money thing work, and it's just a chronic kind of condition. So most people will think the best thing to do is get this, really go looking for this fabulous job or meet the fabulous man with the big money or something like that so that you can get rich. That kind of thinking will keep you in exactly the same position you've always been in, and it will never change. If you find yourself in a state of chronic poverty, you must understand that cause and effect relationships are operating here. You are now reaping the result of a cause that was created maybe early in this lifetime, more likely in another lifetime. And this is why it's so hard, is because you can't see it. We don't know what happened in our last life or 10 lifetimes ago. We really don't know what's the cause. But again, the Buddha says, here's where analysis is very useful. So we look and we say, well, I've always been poor, it's always been an issue. So what can I do to solve this problem? Is hoping for a rich person or a rich job to come along really the solution? Actually, no. What you should start doing, if you're chronically poor, is to give all you can to the poor. Counterintuitive. The shirt off your back if you have to. Now, people will try that and they'll come back to me and say it didn't work. The reason why is because how long did you try it? It took you lifetimes to get this habitual. You got to work at it a while. You can't expect to just be kind for a couple of weeks and then boom, we're home and dry. It's not like that. You have to actually take the grasping energy that you're feeling, that I want the money, I want the money, I want the money, and turn it around into I give what I can give. If it's a quarter, if it's 20 cents, if it's a penny, if it's a hug, if it's some extra clothes to people that don't have clothes, a warm blanket in the wintertime, anything. It doesn't have to be big bucks, but you develop the habit of generosity to the degree where it outweighs that graspiness that says, when am I going to get rich? When am I going to get rich? When am I going to get rich? See? By the time you've changed that habit, things are changing in your life. But until you change the habit, nothing will change. It's all about our habitual tendencies, you see. And there is nobody that knows this better than a recovering alcoholic. Nobody knows it better than a recovering alcoholic. Nobody but I think recovering alcoholics make the best students because they understand what habitual tendency is all about. And they understand what addiction is all about too, including the addiction to gimme, gimme, gimme. I want it, I want it, I want it. More, more, more. That's an addiction. So as we begin to break our habitual tendencies and turn them around and change the addiction, then at that point, we begin giving. When you start giving to others, generally you give to people that have less to you. And one of the first things it does, it makes you realize how much you actually have. Because we don't generally realize how much we actually have. Impoverishment is in here. So when we begin to act kindly and generously towards others and give what little we have, the grasping hand turns around and becomes a giving hand. The mind relaxes about the issue of having, and that clears the way for the ripening of virtuous karma. Virtuous karma will bring us happiness, joy, money, whatever it's tuned into, whatever it's the result of. But it's the grasping neediness that keeps us from giving and makes us so unhappy. So, again, the way to become happy is somewhat counterintuitive, particularly when you're first starting out on the path. Because when we first start out on the path, we come here because generally we're interested, but we also have issues. We have problems. We need to understand more. Our life doesn't make sense in some way. We need to grow in our understanding. And so something is a little bit off, generally, when we first come to the path. And what's off is the old habit. The old habit that says materialism makes you happy, and that, getting for you is what you need to do. It's, and it's you first and nobody else. That kind of materialism is what we walk in here with. Whether we realize it or not, we're brought up with it. Even our parents told you, go to school so you can make much money than the slob next door. It's that kind of idea. I mean, I don't know if your parents said that, but you get the idea. So, when we start to break that habit, it's a little bit difficult. One of the things we do when we first begin is to start to make what's called aspirational prayers. And you should start that this very night. You don't have to have any particular training or any particular empowerment or anything like that, and yet it's quite profound to start making aspirational prayers. Everyone that enters onto the path of the Buddha Dharma begins that way, by making aspirational prayers. And what they are basically prayers for happiness and well-being of all that lives. And so you can do that any way you want to. There's no instruction necessary. You don't have to read a prayer from a book. You can simply speak what is on your heart. Like, for instance, you might begin by saying, as I walk around the stupa, may all sentient beings know the opportunity of this blessing. Like that. Or if you wake up sick, instead of saying, I'm sick, instead you say, may all sentient beings experience radiant health. May they not suffer the way I'm suffering now. And if you're hungry, here, you can have this. But before you eat this, you say your aspirational prayer. May all sentient beings be nourished. May they have the fullness of Dharma. May they have plenty to eat and plenty to wear. And if you find you lose your job and you're poor and you just can't pull it together, you make stronger prayers, stronger and stronger prayers. May no one go without good work and good occupation. May no one suffer as I am suffering now. And if you break a leg before you start cussing or crying, may no sentient being suffer this pain, ever. May all sentient beings walk strong and have full use of all their limbs. Now, at first when you do it, you think, this is kind of namby-pamby. I mean, when do you get into the deep stuff? Oh, you'll get into the deep stuff. Trust me. We'll get deep pretty quick around here. But it pays, and it behooves us to start at start. And that's where you start. You begin to break the old habits and give rise to some new habits. Habits of generosity and mindfulness, thoughtfulness and caring. And we do this through aspirational prayers. I know when I read the paper, that's a great opportunity, for instance, to make aspirational prayers. Oh, may the suffering end in Burma. May this terrible situation give rise to new purpose, and may the people find their empowerment and rise up, that kind of thing. Whatever comes to your mind. And this way, you break the habit of selfishness, neediness, and, let's see, what was the other one? Selfishness, neediness, and inability to connect the dots and see how your actions do create result and other people's actions do create result. So if you come back in a couple of months and you say, I'm still not happy. And people do that. I've had so many people come up to me and said, I have been generous for 2 weeks and it's no result. So what the hell is this? I've had people say that to me. And first of all, if you come to me and you say that, I doubt that you were truly generous even for those 2 weeks. If you say that to me. Second of all, it's just 2 weeks. How many years did it take you to be as miserable as you are? It's going to take some time. It does not happen overnight. So people often, they try to make these aspirational prayers, and the first thing they do is they don't have the feel for it yet. They don't really, it's not really in their heart yet. So they basically go, may all sentient beings be happy. I'm in a really bad mood. May all sentient beings be really happy. And it's kind of like that. It's almost like, through my teeth, I'm wishing sentient beings to be happy. Because you're not used to it. And that shows you how you don't have the habit for that. How it is not your habit to care for others. That right there is the proof in the pudding. That's the reason why we're suffering. And so if we just persevere through the 2-week mark, through the 6-month mark, through the 20-year mark, we become happy. And we do change. And our lives do change. But it takes persistence. And it takes getting to the point where you're not saying it through your teeth. It's really so natural to you that even if you wake up in a bad mood, you say, oh, I'm in a bad mood. Boy, I hope nobody else feels like this. Now you know you're getting somewhere. If your first thought is, I hope nobody else feels like this. And your first thought is for the consideration of others. That's really one of the main beginning points in the Buddha Dharma, is to give rise to compassion. And in the Buddha Dharma, there are mainly 2 kinds of compassion. There is ordinary compassion, and there is extraordinary or sublime compassion. Ordinary bodhicitta or sublime bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the great display of compassion, which is our own primordial nature. So, ordinary bodhicitta is the caring for others through the means that we can find on this earth, through ordinary means, in other words. Like, for instance, if you see somebody that's hungry and you give them a sandwich, that's compassionate. But it's ordinary compassion because, you didn't get the sandwich from the sublime realms. You got it from a kitchen, probably your kitchen, or you bought it somewhere. And so it's ordinary stuff that went into it. Bologna and salami and whatever. Peanut butter and jelly. So it's ordinary. And even let's say you make 150 sandwiches and you pass them out to the hungry homeless, well, that's a good day. Now, you've got my attention if you've done that. That's a real good day. But it's still ordinary compassion because it's easily attainable. Even to the degree that, let's say, there are many, many hungry people now in Burma. No matter what the junta says, the people are not eating. And they are sick and dying. So, let's say somehow we magically can put together everything they need and just bust through the blockades and give it to the people. Let's say we airdrop everything they need and the whole place is satisfied and people have tents or homes or something to live in. They have the means to get food. They have food. They have bedding. They have everything because of this magnificent airdrop that you made. Let's say that's possible. Even though, and wouldn't that take a lot of money? That would take an awful lot of money. So it would take a fabulous amount of money, but still in all, it's ordinary human compassion. We never see ordinary humans doing that very much. And that goes to show you the pickle we're in. But it's still ordinary human compassion. Now, what is supreme or extraordinary compassion? That is compassionate activity that concerns and offers that which is not of this world. The great bodhisattvas that return again and again and again are considered to be totally demonstrating the great bodhicitta, because the nature of the bodhisattva is such that once they attain the certain bhumis, which are levels, We'll get to that deep stuff, I promise. Once they attain certain bhumis, then at that time they can step into enlightenment or step into nirvana and attain the rainbow body at any moment. But they hold back because they wish to benefit sentient beings. They look at the suffering of sentient beings, they see this terrible suffering and it moves them, and they return to earth to show them the way out of that suffering. That is extraordinary compassion. That is considered extraordinary compassion. So then, translating, teaching, creating the books of Dharma, offering these ancient teachings in a modern world so that modern people can continue to benefit from something that would ordinarily be lost to them. That is considered extraordinary compassion. When I held my little newborn son in my arms, I thought, I would do anything for you. I would do anything for you. I will care for you. I will keep you warm. I will give you my milk. And when you're done with that, I'll bake pies. And I'll do stuff. And oh, you're so cute. I'll do anything for you. And then I realized I was lying to him. Because if my son were to get gravely ill, I would have no power to help him. Or if my son were to die, even though I told him I would never abandon him, I would not be able to follow him into the next rebirth. I would not be able to see to his welfare. So there's my baby in my arms, and I have lied to him. That was one of the main things that made me practice really, really hard when I was young. Really hard. And I made it my business to learn how to provide the POA, which is the transference of consciousness from one level to the next, or from one life to the next rebirth. And that's the practice of POA, an ancient practice. And I made myself learn to do that so that I can help people and dogs and cats and anybody in the dying process, and even my own child, I could follow into the next life and make sure that his rebirth is good. So I've attained that goal, and I'm very happy for it. Very happy for it. So you see the difference there. A mother's love is so powerful, so extraordinary. You would feed your child your own body if they were hungry. And you look in the eyes of your child and you think, never has there been love like this. I would do anything for you. But until we can really, it's still ordinary human compassion. And until that compassion applies to all sentient beings and we have the skills through our own realization, we're lying. And we are not able to do very much for those we love. So that is one of the differences between ordinary and supreme bodhicitta. Let's say that a practitioner has dedicated their lives to practicing every day for the sake of sentient beings, for the happiness of sentient beings, maintaining their samaya or commitment practice very purely, practicing every day for the sake of sentient beings. That's extraordinary compassion. Even though you're doing it here on earth, the method for doing that did not come from the earth. It came from the realization and the awakening of the Buddha. If not for the Buddha's awakening, the technology would not be here. And so it's extraordinary compassion. And as we progress along the path, the first thing that we do, like the 2 feet of the path, is to practice ordinary and extraordinary compassion. This is it. This is the feet of the path. This is what gives you the legs, the ability to go the distance. And if all you're concerned about is yourself and your own delusions and illusions and your own BS, and really not out there for the sake of sentient beings, doing your practice every single day for the sake of sentient beings, then you're not there yet. It's just not there yet. And that's why we call it practice. Nobody comes here ready to fly. Nobody. If that were the case, you wouldn't need to come here. But you come here with a taste. There must be some old habit in you, some karma, something that you've given rise to in the past that puts you here in this moment. And may I suggest and may I beg you to take advantage of it. Because in order to get to the point where you can sit at the feet of your guru and listen to the precious Buddha Dharma, and then go to New York and hear His Holiness teach the precious Buddha Dharma, you must have made so many wishing prayers and must have done so much virtuous conduct in the past. And if your path goes smoothly, then you know that you've done it before. And if you give rise to the bodhicitta, then you're not a stranger to it. And this is how we know where we've been and what we were like in the past, simply by looking at ourselves. If we're poor, we didn't give enough. If we're sick, we did not see to the welfare of others or caused them harm. If we are mentally incapacitated, then we caused someone else mental suffering in the past, or many people. Those that die young have either killed others young or caused others to die young. So these are the things that we're looking for, and these are the things that we can overcome by practicing the Buddha Dharma. It can be overcome. The most glorious thing about the Buddha Dharma is that you don't wait for a blessing outside of you, for permission, or for the grace to ascend to the heavens for no apparent reason. That's the great thing about Dharma. It's real. In the Dharma, you are given the tools that you need to change the circumstances of your life and to change the condition of your consciousness as well. And the way that that happens, of course, is through our practice. The difference between our own religion, which is basically a non-theistic religion, and other religions is that other religions see a blessing from outside. They wait for a redeemer who will make it okay no matter what their activity is. Like, for instance, my family, my stepfather was Catholic, and he was an alcoholic and would beat us mercilessly. I mean, we were brutalized as children. I mean, really. It was a terrible, terrible situation. But then we'd all tromp off to confession, free and clear by Sunday afternoon. So you can see I don't have a good feeling about that. Because they were never required to change. And even the parish priest knew that my mother was getting the stew beat out of her all the time. And, he would recommend confession. So we're not like that. We believe, we understand in the relationship between cause and effect. You can't murder a handful of people and then confess it and accept Jesus as your Savior and be okay. We don't believe that. Or anybody. You can't accept Buddha as your Savior and be okay. You can't accept me as your Savior and be okay. You have to walk the talk. You have to walk the path, and you have to practice. So yes, your conduct matters a great deal. What's in your mind matters even more. And if as you practice your path, you find your joy increase, and it smooths out for you, you know you're getting somewhere. So in the Buddha Dharma, we do not wait we understand that, yes, there are the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And we are taught that there was Shakyamuni Buddha, and let's see, who's up there? We have Vajrasattva, we have Shakyamuni, we have, let's see, Amitabha, we have, who is that next? I can't see the hands. Okay, and we've got Tara over there, got another Tara, got all these different statues. And so they are symbols of the Buddhas. Do they actually exist? Yes. Can you pray to them? Sure. Are they separate from you? No. That's the difference. When we begin to practice the Buddha Dharma and really engage in practice, we begin by practicing generation stage teaching. And what that means is you learn to generate yourself, you learn to dissolve your ordinary constituents. You just like, boom, dissolve. This is your visualization. And then you give rise to yourself as a seed syllable, and we'll teach you what that is. And then from the seed syllable, you become the deity. Tara, Vajradhara, Manjushri, any of those. You become that deity, and you give rise to Vajra pride. It's not like, haha, I'm the deity and you're not. It's the realization of your nature and the nobility of that. And you become that very deity, and you begin to develop the qualities of that deity by reciting the mantra and practicing the hand implements. And so eventually, when you accomplish the deity, at that very moment you come to understand that you are not separate from that deity, and that deity is your very nature. As we practice, also as we move on and practice the Guru Yoga, one realizes that the teacher on the throne that we revere and think has great wisdom and great bodhicitta, and we see has special qualities, when you really accomplish Guru Yoga, you mix your mind stream with the Guru's mind stream like milk with water. And they become so inseparable that in the end you realize that your own root Guru is the very display of your mind. How amazing. That's how deep this path is. And to practice it superficially is crazy. You can do that anywhere else. You can be superficial anywhere you want to. But to come here and practice, you should practice deeply. And please take to heart even the beginning things that I speak of, like the aspirational prayers, and developing the habit of that. Please start there right now. You can do that right now. And to give rise to the understanding that by contemplation on what I've taught tonight, that we are the same in our nature, that we wish to be happy, and that the way to be happy may seem counterintuitive at first, but it's real. There aren't many happier people than people who are happy in their own mind. Those that have awakened and have realized they are filled with the streaming bliss of the bodhicitta. There's no unhappiness, there's no drama, there's no BS. You see? And that's how we know we're making it. All right. So, that's good for tonight.